Hello folks, this is Sal DePolice here. For some reason I'm out of storage, so I'm not going to be able to do a video, but the problem I have is I was going to do some content ratings. I was away for almost 8 months, cleaning myself up, getting sober, getting mentally healthy, physically healthy. I haven't even turned YouTube on except to listen to music maybe more than 5 times. So I just recently started watching a few shows again, and I wanted to talk about some of them because it's kind of interesting, I guess. Maybe just because I haven't seen them in a while. But the FBS show has been cool. There was some good debates. This whole John A. Light, Joey Marino thing was cool, debating about stuff. He went to Florida to kick Pete's ass, which is always fucking great. Rest in peace to that poor girl. And Pete definitely deserves to fucking die. Even Smoke. I remember I tried to watch him a few months ago, I think, just out of boredom, and I remember like being bored and falling asleep. But the last like 6, 7 shows I watched, he was on fire, bro. I liked it. It was funny as hell. I think he's doing good shit, good content, different, original. The chat is the same, very cool people in it. Dominic Zicali, he had like 1,600 people in his chat last night. I was in there, and I never even went in his chat. I watch him on TV. I just happened to see somebody say that actually. And I think his show has been fucking pretty awesome. I kind of feel there's some backstabbing going on John A. Light. I'm a John A. Light supporter, just for the record. And that leads me to the fact that now that Jeff Nadeau's gone and Scott Bernstein, we all know, doesn't know shit about New York. He might know about Detroit, which is cool because I like Detroit. I just got into Detroit and I think it's fascinating and they're very powerful. But, you know, the only one giving good newsworthy content right now, I believe, is truly James Proctor. He's weird to watch. He like has some kind of ism or something. I don't know what his problem is, and that's no offense. I have special needs all over in my family. I'm not saying he has anything wrong with him, but he's hard to like for me to follow. Maybe because I have so many issues, but like right now I'm shaking so bad that my phone is fucking vibrating. And I think he is taking a hard line against John A. Light. I don't think that was subjective or objective news, whatever word I'm looking for there. I don't know which one. I'm not a journalist. But I would like him to be a little more fair. But he did do some good reporting on the town of Englishtown. I'm fascinated by the town of Englishtown. I'm going to start doing my own research on this shit. Because there's a couple of stories out there. And after going through what I went through, where, you know, I never got to really tell my story. I always had my foot halfway in, halfway out. I couldn't tell the full story because I didn't want anyone in my neighborhood to get mad at me, but there was so much of a story to tell. By the way, I got all the paperwork. If you look past my son there's boxes, and there's Who? What? Alright. Great. So the pizza people are calling my phone. Apparently I ordered pizza, so I'm gonna have to get off in a minute anyway. Yeah, there's some fascinating stuff, and what I went through after I was running my town, multiple criminal enterprises, and I noticed that's when everybody kind of turned on me. It was all fun and games when I was making fun of myself and being a crackhead with no teeth, and telling stories that just made me into a clown. But at the end of the day, I hung out with some very serious people, and when I started talking about that, people kind of turned on me like I was acting like who the fuck I was and shit. So, I just bounced off of YouTube and whatever, and the only problem I have now is what I went through in my town. Forget YouTube and all this shit. The fact that when I lost my phone, and I was handcuffed to a bed in a psych ward for over 3 weeks probably. I got arraigned by a judge on the telephone, and that was my first experience in a psych ward unit. And dealing with that led to some people spreading false narratives about me while I wasn't there, and they knew I wasn't going to be there to defend myself. And unfortunately, to this day, about 17 years later, not only did I lose about 90%, I'm just now reconnecting with some people I grew up with because people realized they fought over some stupid shit. But unfortunately, some of the closest people to me died before I got a chance to make amends with them. And that kills me inside. And people spread rumors that I had things to do with people's death, people that I loved and protected and respected, people that were my loyalist fucking soldiers. We had a fraternity that, we LLC'd it like a Knights of Columbus, so it wasn't like a gang or a mafia. That's why I never called it that. I never even told you it was a fraternity or whatever. But we actually sold merchandise because our affiliate organization in Brooklyn was called BTS, which was Brooklyn Terror Squad, but they were originally called Bomb the Subway, and they were graffiti artists. So we were selling t-shirts, wow, I spit my tongue, that had graffiti and stuff. And there's a whole side to my story that you never heard, because I never, I told you guys to Google certain things like the BTS, the Ecstasy Bandits article in Details magazine. I have that in that pile there. All my drug dealing arrests. I have all the articles from Microfiche. I have stuff from the Nassau County Clerk's office in there. My criminal records, all my criminal complaints. My arrest of my last arrest, where I blew a hit of crack in the face of an undercover cop, and he let everyone go, put the cuffs on me. I was ROR for that one, but, he has a picture of all the drugs that were found on me. You see all the Xanax and the Suboxone, and, I have everything, and in case I decide to write my memoir. And it's not, I don't want to come on here and tell these stories, okay, because I don't want to go through people telling me I'm a liar anymore and having, I'm not into it, because I don't, I'd rather just go over books and music and content creators, and there's actually enough stuff that I wanted to talk about just now that I could have easily done like 3 weeks of shows without talking about any of this stuff. The problem is, and this goes for John A. Light, Vinny Bassiano, Joey Marino, Sonny Franchi, whatever. This goes for everyone. Gene Barello. There's been so much. Howard Santos. Common Sense. I haven't even seen Common since I've been back, man. I hope that you're okay, bro. But, so many people have not even heard good things people said about them or bad things said about them, or they only heard one or the other, and they listen to people that are starting to stir shit up, and I feel like rewriting history, which is what people used to accuse John A. Light of, and maybe I have a soft spot for him because he lost his daughter. Who knows? But I do. I feel I would be betraying him if I wished him any bad luck on this court case. I don't know anything about it, um, you know, and that's all I have to say about that. I have absolutely no research on it, no paperwork on it, no copy of an indictment. All I have is James Proctor videos that I barely remember. I think Frank Fiorellino's videos have sucked lately, just for the record. And I'm not taking a dig at him because he kind of stabbed me in the back when those guys were mad at me, because they obviously ended up showing me nothing but love. But Frank didn't. I think he's a drunk and he's bitter that his story's not getting the exposure he wished it was. And I'm sorry if anyone's mad at me for saying that, but I believe that. You know, just because you asked the kid named Terragrossa if he knew that I knew Peter Zuccaro, he knew Peter Zuccaro and ratted him out before the armored car robbery. I didn't meet Peter Zuccaro till he came home from the armored car robbery. So Mark Terragrossa isn't going to know me. So that's not a valid case to make, because you will see in the 200 pages I have here that I've actually had FBI agents come to me and tell me on 2 separate occasions, and I had the paperwork to prove it, that Peter Zuccaro was going to murder me. And I laughed at them and said, that's just how he talks. It's out of context. He's crazy. And I got right in the car with him the next day. And sometimes he did attack me. I told you he abused me and gave me PTSD. I've never acted tough and said I fucking told him to go fuck himself and this and that. I told you, you know, I watched this guy Sal Polisi talk about how he was this happy-go-lucky guy when they used to steal cars together in their 20s, and I've never seen the guy smile one time, and the guy was the most miserable person I've ever met in my life. Literally, I don't think I've ever seen him joke, smile, laugh. So I don't know what that guy Sal Polisi is smoking, but maybe Peter was different when he was younger. He was 22 years old when Sal Polisi knew him. I knew him when he was 55 years old and facing life in jail pretty much. So different times. But also, when I talk about rewriting history, there's so much I want to tell about myself and kind of tell the real story, because my life has been rewritten. And, you know, it's kind of annoying. And everybody matters. I might not be important in the context of American history the way Cosa Nostra is, but I matter. So do you. You matter. Everyone out there that has a story to tell matters. And now you got all this AI bullshit, and, you know, I ordered a book the other day thinking there was an author that wrote it, and it was AI generated. There wasn't even a fucking author. I was sick to my stomach. And it's like, I get it. There's not much more I could learn about the mob, bro. I'll teach mobsters about the mob. I'll teach Frank Fiorellino a thing or two about the mob, bro. Like, I have to skip the first 60 pages of every book I buy because it's the same story. Marzano, Masseria, Luciano, they form the commission, Appalachian. If I read about Appalachian one more time, I'm going to blow my fucking brains out. So I get it. The genre is thin. But right now, it's hot. James Proctor is bringing out news. Dominic Sicali and them are bringing out news. I like that Gene Varello and Proctor kind of squashed the beef. But listen, all I'm saying is I do want to retell my story, even if it's one story a week. I do want to get the real version of things that bothered me out there. Because to this day, I'm hearing things, and now I have receipts. I just spent 8 months with an attorney getting fucking receipts, and I have jars and jars of receipts over there. Not jars, files and files. And that doesn't even include the whole thing of discs I have, because they put things on discs now, like wiretaps. My friend that opened, he was in the paper with Mayor Adams giving him, he was the first person in New York to get a dispensary license. I've talked about him many times. He's in the New York Post, the Daily News, hugging Mayor Adams, and he was somebody that was a plug of mine and a best friend of mine. And his wife shot himself in the head, which led to him catching charges, both on the drug and gun tip, and he had a gang life and a gang jacket, not organized crime, but you know, he was the leader of a ethnic gang, even though he was the only white boy in the neighborhood. But I was on his wiretap as an unindicted co-conspirator, and he warned me about 10 minutes before the police department warned me. And it said in the letter that I was not in any trouble. They just had to inform me that I was on a wiretap for that case. But I have all my information, is what I'm saying. And everyone's story matters, is what I'm saying. The guys that I tried to tell you were the ecstasy bandits. For their story not to be out there just because people are too lazy to go on Google and watch, you know, this is Peter Gation's enforcers after that guy Lord Michael Caruso left the club, the Tunnel in the Limelight. And my 4 best friends are on the cover. 2 of them are dead, and 2 of them live together in Florida. And I still talk to them. And there's an interview with one of the 4 people in this article. And then about 3 weeks later, every one of them gets arrested in the biggest ecstasy case ever brought to New York with the Israeli mafia. And it's a small world. I'll tell the story of my best friend that went to jail for the shootout at my wedding. He got arrested. He drove to Vermont to sell like 10,000 hits of ecstasy. And he went to a restaurant for a deal, and he made the deal, and all the people that were dining in the restaurant stood up, and they were all undercover. And then it's such a small world, my first wife's stepbrother brought the kid to my house one day, and he was looking at my wedding photos, and he's like, you know this guy? And he started having a seizure right there, and he's like, don't tell him you know me. Like, because he was supposed to be in, like, protective custody, I guess, or something. Whatever. I'm not going to get into every story. There's a new quote, because I know I'm all over the place. My wife says it. She says, land the plane. Meaning don't go into 10 stories while you're trying to tell one story. So I'm just on here. I'm going to try to give some content. I'm not looking for any money. The only thing I have is Zelle anyway with my phone number. But I do have some good content. I have paperwork to prove it, and I'll get into, the pizza guy's calling me now, but I'll get into why the investigative reporter for Details magazine is such a genius for figuring this thing out with my friends. And I'll get into how the 2 guys on the cover died, which one of them is a fascinating story in itself. And when you hear his name, you will find it very familiar if you follow my path and my journey on Mob Key. But either way, shout out to Gunsmoke, shout out to FBS, Common Sense and Howie, I hope you're okay. Boy, Boogie, fucking Dwayne, all you guys, man, what's up? Becky Town, thanks for the love, Carlos, everybody, man. I hope you guys can start watching. I'm going to make these videos shorter so you can actually concentrate and watch quick little 10-minute hit videos. I'll tell one story at a time. And that's it, man. Have a good night, everyone. I hope to see you soon. Thank you.